Because we're involved with the Sydney Drum and Percussion Show, I've been listening more to drums in recordings recently because I'm talking to more drummers.
Yeah.
I was talking to a Texan band called Spoon last week, and
Hmm.
what I noticed about their records was that the hi-hats were more prominent than a lot of other bands. And I asked him about it, and he said it's not in the way he plays, they just mix the hi-hats louder. Are you
Uh-huh.
are you hearing any trends in recordings at the moment in regard to
Uh,
drums?
Certainly. Fat kicks and very fat snares. Layered. Everything is layered. Not all, let's say the more traditional jazz recordings, of course, and some of the very acoustic genres will not use any layering in their recordings because they want to breathe and they want to make it sound very natural. But on every commercial recording today, there's like loops happening. There's layerings of kicks and snares. For instance, the acoustic kick and the acoustic snare will still be there, but there's layers underneath and on top of it. There's always some kind of hand clap involved still. Cymbals will usually be very natural, but they will be cued a little bit differently. And what is also happening a lot, Greg, is side chaining. For instance, this is something that the EDM, the EDM world, which is not new either, has been using for years and years, and now it's getting more and more common into even acoustic recordings, where the drummer with the kicks and the snares actually triggers a compressor which, for instance, is linked to the bass sound or some of the keyboard sounds. And every time he plays a kick or a snare, this compressor on the other sounds makes it duck down a little bit. And this is why music today is sounding so much louder than it used to be when we listen to a Stevie Wonder recording or an old Led Zeppelin recording, because now they can have the drums as loud as possible without also consuming too much energy from the bass and the keyboards, because they all work together. So even when you have a live bass part played by a live bass player in a studio recording, any engineer today will still try to sidechain compress from the kick and the snare that bass part. So every time the kick is sounding, the bass goes down a little bit, but the release of the bass sound is still there. And this means that instead of having kick and bass on top of each other, which would totally, boost everything in the red zone, now they work together. And it also gives a little bit of a different swing feel.
Yeah.
And that is happening all the time. And now it also happens live.
Mm.
So the hi-hat thing, I can imagine that's a particular thing for these guys. But thanks to the fact, for instance, that now also some cymbal companies discovered that 16-inch hi-hats can sound very, very good in even a pop song. Now hi-hats and vocals, for instance, can work together a little bit more. I've been using 16-inch hi-hats in acoustic recordings since 10 years or something, and I started using this when a sound engineer told me, "Hey, you know, let's try some bigger hi-hats because the lead vocalist has a really nasal high frequency kind of sound, and the hi-hats, I always have problem to put the hi-hats and that vocal to make them blend. We went to bigger hi-hats, and immediately the vocals were louder and the hi-hats were audible because they could have a little bit, they would be pushed a little bit more. And that's also what's happening a lot. Um, Thanks to computer technology and the way people can actually look for frequencies much more precise than they used to, those recordings are really in the face, and every instrument can be really loud without killing
Mm.
the other ones.
Yeah.
So I can imagine with Spoon, that's one of the things they discovered as well. Let's put the hi-hats as loud as possible. It doesn't take anything away from the rest of the music. I can imagine it's something like that.
Yeah.